Brian Cohen, Carol Roth, Rob Basso, and Evelyn Anderson are back with us once again to finish this discussion. Evelyn, I want to talk to you about this first because you have a company that has had some hard times recently, and you guys have survived and done a really amazing job. But has access to capital been an issue for you?
No, not particularly. We haven't gone out and tried to get any, so it hasn't been an issue.
So why not? Why not?
If we do...
Yeah, I want to know.
Well, our credit's lousy, so we can't really, basically. It's as simple as that.
But
if we do, we would be looking more to the crowdsource funding, the cloud funding, the things. One of the things that the president did pass successfully was a change in the way that small businesses can acquire capital through small individual investors. And that's definitely something that I want to explore when the time comes for us to really do a major expansion.
So I think you are so typical of so many people, Evelyn, which is your business has gone through a hard time, but you haven't gone out and looked for a loan, A, because either you don't qualify, or for a lot of people, they are just uncertain that they can even pay it back. So, you know, the laundromat person that I talked to before, he said, I could go out and get a loan, but if I'm not getting customers, what's going to happen?
Well, I helped a client get a $600,000 line. He went to 4 or 5 different banks, and we finally got him the line of credit that he needed to refinance previous debt. But that's because he was bankable, and he showed that he had cash flow to repay the debt. Evelyn might not have the cash flow to repay the debt. Nobody's going to take that risk, and that's what's happening. A lot of small business owners saying there's not access to capital. Some of it's available, but the reality is a lot of small business owners don't have the assets that they're capable of actually lending them on. I mean, I'm a founder in a small community bank out on Long Island, and we raised $30 million to open this bank 5 years ago, and we're lending money to the right people, the people that can repay the debt.
Okay, so tell me, access to capital, and the president or Romney, who's going to make this better?
No comparison. Obama sees the big picture. He understands through the Jobs Act that new techniques have to be created. That's what the Jobs Act is all about. The banks have very strict guidelines. I come from a very risk-driven perspective. As an angel investor, we've put tens of millions of dollars to work where we didn't even expect a lot of money back, and that was okay because
Why would you not expect a lot of money back? You're an angel investor. That doesn't make any sense.
Because we know how hard it is. We understand the risk. We're willing to.
They're kind investors.
They're not
profit-driven
money
investors.
back from one of them and not
sure,
as much
Brian.
from the other one.
The reality of our game, and it is a game, and I've just written a book on it, is that if you don't do it right, you're going to lose. But if you begin to do it right, and part of my interest is to make sure people do it righter than they've done.
Okay, but let's bring it back to the candidates. Access to capital, it's been an issue for a lot of people. Who's better?
I think that this is one where both of them have good points. I do think that Romney's better because he obviously understands it better. He comes from the business sector. He used to be a venture capitalist. He used to be in private equity. So I certainly think he understands that model. I will give President Obama credit for the Jobs Act. I do think, however, as somebody who formerly owned a broker-dealer, that the crowdfunding for real crowdfunding for startup businesses is not going to be as robust, especially in the overall small business community, as everybody thinks it is.
Okay, quickly moving over to health care. Now, Evelyn, you were a supporter of Obamacare. Why? How do you think that helps your company?
I am. Well, specifically being able to buy insurance in a large pool of people as opposed to just my very small business trying to go out and get a policy for ourselves would make a huge difference because then we can buy at the same types of rates that large corporations get. And I really look forward to that. Those are the health exchanges for each state. And I look forward to being able to look online on the Internet and look at all the policies and make decisions for myself without the, sort of pressure situation of talking to basically a sales representative for an insurance company coming in and saying, well, this policy is better than that. I would really rather look at it myself and think about it and really ponder what our needs are and then look at the costs of everything and make our own decisions.
Evelyn is an educated consumer. She wants to spend time looking at themselves, but I'll tell you, looking at the different health plans, you can't make heads or tails of a lot of these health plans, and unless you really have an expert, somebody really trained in helping you, I think it's actually going to be a disservice to small business people because they could be picking the wrong plans. I think I'm a fairly bright guy, and I look at these plans.
Now, there's a disservice to small business people right now, whether this is the answer or not. Right now, it's impossible to choose health care plans if you are a small business owner. I spent so much time on it, and it is impossible.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much about the issue of what type of plan it is. I think there's a crisis of humanity you were talking philosophically, I think there are so many employers who don't even offer quality health plans to their employees. And what percentage of people are a bankruptcy of a health issue away from having horror stories in their lives? We have a responsibility to help people and to create happier employees. They're going to cost a lot more if they're not healthy.
Right. I mean, I think everybody is very clear that we want people to be covered by health care. I think the question is the implementation. And my problem with the Affordable Care Act, which I think is the same problem a lot of small business owners are having with it, is that anytime you put the government in the middle of something, it always ends up being more expensive. And every single small business owner that I have spoken to across the board, we're talking at summits, we're talking thousands of small business owners, believes their health care costs are going to go up.
All the government is doing is giving us a venue in which to make choices. And it also does seem to me that if you add millions and millions of new customers to an industry like healthcare, by definition, if you get more customers, your cost per customer goes down. That just is a business principle.
It depends who you talk to. You ask one side, costs will go up, one side, costs will go down. I said this in the last segment. Time will tell what happens there. But I want to we have to end this segment, unfortunately. I want to end it by asking each of you, as a small business owner, take social policy aside, as a small business owner who's concerned with your small business interest, why you should vote for your candidate. Evelyn, let's start with you.
Well, one of the reasons is that I think that people forget that government spending does often provide jobs. In personal terms, I know of 3 companies, including ours, that has benefited from government spending over the last few years. Women in Construction, a company that didn't have to lay off employees because of stimulus money. We got some of it. The general contractor on the job that we're currently working just came off a 3-year job. So I would like to see more of that kind of spending. I have a lot of jobs lining up for next year, most of which are for towns. That's government spending. That's government money.
Okay, got it. So government spending,
to me, is going to be beneficial.
Gets jobs. Okay, Carol, Romney.
All right. So as a small business owner, you live and die by a meritocracy. You are responsible and you are accountable, and you have to do what you say you're going to do or you go out of business. We have a president who said $9 trillion in debt was irresponsible. I'm going to cut that in half by the end of my first term, and instead he added 60%. He said he was going to lower the unemployment rate. We're still at 7.8%. We had 43 months of over 8%. As a small business owner, I cannot extend another 4 years to somebody who didn't get done the most important things that affect our economy. Plain and simple.
Brian.
Yeah, that's taking a negative. What's the positive? The positive is education. Obama's a huge education proponent. You talked about training. He's really driven into training. I think that's the core. As even you said, we're going through a transitionary period. I'm not sure anybody has the absolute solution to it, but I do know that education and training is a critical component of it. Access to capital, Jobs Act, whole new big idea. I'm driven in the Entrepreneur Party. I think if we all thought about not Republican, not Democrat, but the Entrepreneur Party, conservatism in spending, real rigor in thinking, there's no question that Obama really represents that core development of that growth of the entrepreneur community.
All right, the last word. Rob.
Well, I think we got to realize that we're not an insular nation, and I think one of the things that excites me is Romney's going to get tough on China and the devaluation of our own dollar, and I really think it's a big challenge because it creates pressure here in America on our entire economy. I also think that leveling the playing field with making the tax rates more acceptable to not only high-wage earners but regular Americans, that it's going to make a big difference, and that's why I'm going to vote for Romney.
All right, Brian, Carol, Rob, Evelyn, we really appreciate this lively and interesting discussion. I hope it's very helpful to everyone out there who's trying to make the decision this week. Thanks you guys.